Commander Zekthul studied the human specimen through the observation deck's reinforced transparisteel. The creature sat motionless in the center of the containment cell, its primitive bipedal form hunched over what appeared to be meditation. After 3 cycles of interrogation, psychological manipulation, and neural probing, the human, designation Terra 7, remained unbroken. Status report, Zekthul chittered to his subordinate, Science Officer Vexmari. The subject continues to resist all standard breaking protocols, Commander. Neural scans indicate unusual patterns we've never encountered in other species. Where most beings show deterioration after prolonged isolation and stress, this one appears to be adapting. Zekthul's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The hegemony had conquered 47 star systems using these exact techniques. Every species eventually submitted to their superior intellect and technology. Yet this lone human, captured during the failed defense of the Sol system's outer colonies, defied every principle of xenopsychology. Increase the pressure, Zekthul ordered. Deploy the empathic torturers. Within the cell, Marcus Chen opened, his eyes as the chamber filled with a sickly yellow mist. He recognized the signs. The hegemony's empathic species were about to bombard him with manufactured emotions of despair, hopelessness, and terror. He'd endured this before. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had spent millennia breaking themselves before any alien ever tried. Marcus had grown up in the ruins of Detroit, watched his sister die from a preventable disease because his family couldn't afford treatment, survived 3 tours in the resource wars before the first alien contact. The hegemony's psychological warfare was amateur hour compared to what humans did to each other daily. The empathic assault began. Waves of artificial anguish crashed against his mind, designed to shatter his will and leave him begging for mercy. Instead, Marcus did something the aliens never expected. He embraced the pain, acknowledged it, and let it flow through him without resistance. His grandmother's meditation techniques, learned in a crowded refugee camp, served him better than any military training. Curious, Vexmari observed from the control room. His neural patterns are shifting again. The subject appears to be processing the emotional input rather than being overwhelmed by it. Hours passed. The empathic torturers, exhausted from their sustained assault, finally withdrew. Marcus remained sitting calmly, apparently unaffected. That night, though the ship's artificial lighting never changed, Marcus began his real work. The aliens assumed humans were simple, primitive creatures driven by base emotions. They'd studied human history and concluded that the species was inherently violent and chaotic, good only for slave labor or elimination. They were wrong about the violence part, but they'd missed the point entirely. Marcus began speaking aloud, addressing the surveillance devices he knew monitored every word. He didn't offer information about Earth's defenses or beg for mercy. Instead, he began telling stories. He spoke of human resilience, how his species had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have wiped out weaker civilizations. He described the Underground Railroad, ordinary people risking everything to free strangers from bondage. He recounted tales of prisoners of war who maintained hope in the darkest circumstances, of concentration camp inmates who shared their last crumb of bread with fellow prisoners. You see, Marcus said to the cameras, you think breaking us is about inflicting pain, but humans are already broken. We're born into a world that tries to crush us from day one. The secret is that we've learned to be broken and keep going anyway. In the observation deck, junior officers had begun gathering to listen. Marcus's stories spread through the ship's lower decks like wildfire, translated by the universal communication systems. He spoke of human music created in slave quarters, of literature written in prison cells, of scientific discoveries made by people who had nothing left to lose. Vexmari noticed it first. Subtle changes in behavior among the hegemony's servant species. The Krilltechs, normally docile and efficient, began hesitating before executing orders. The Mordians, bred for compliance, started asking questions about their duties. Even some of the junior hegemony officers seemed affected. Commander, Vexmari reported urgently. We're detecting anomalous psychological patterns throughout the ship. The humans' narratives appear to be having an unintended effect on our personnel. Zekthul's eyes narrowed. Explain. He's not trying to escape or resist. He's doing something far more dangerous. He's making them think. About choice, about freedom, about the possibility that their current existence isn't the only option. For the first time in cycles, Zekthul felt something he'd rarely experienced. Fear. Marcus continued his quiet revolution. He spoke of human philosophers who chose death over subjugation, of ordinary people who became extraordinary when faced with injustice. He described the concept of inherent dignity, that every conscious being possessed worth that no authority could grant or take away. The tipping point came when a group of Krilltech maintenance workers refused to activate the Yao, ship's slave processing facility for a new batch of prisoners. When pressed by their overseers, they simply stated, "We choose differently." Within days, the revolt spread. Not a violent uprising, but something the hegemony found infinitely more terrifying, a quiet refusal to participate in oppression. Service species across the ship began questioning orders, demanding explanations, asserting basic rights they'd never known they possessed. Zekthul stood before Marcus's cell, his superior alien intellect finally grasping the magnitude of his error. They hadn't captured a human prisoner. They'd imported a virus of liberation that was infecting his entire command structure. "What have you done?" he demanded. Marcus stood slowly, meeting the alien commander's gaze through the transparastile. "I showed them what you never wanted them to learn. That chains only have power if you accept them. That freedom isn't something you're given, it's something you choose." The cell door, operated by Krilltech technicians who had just discovered the concept of civil disobedience, slid open with a soft hiss. Marcus walked out calmly, past the alien commander whose empire was crumbling not from human weapons, but from human ideas. Behind him, throughout the ship, the sound of mental chains breaking echoed like thunder across the stars.